Good morning, everyone. We are here to talk about employee advocacy, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Phoebe Venkat and Sabrina Stoffergen. Come on out.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, ladies, maybe take a minute to tell people who you are.
Sure, I'm Sabrina Stoffergen. I am the director of Intel Ambassadors, and I've been at Intel for 16 years. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about employee advocacy.
She started when she was 10, I think. I'm Phoebe Venkat. I'm from ADT, and I lead their enterprise social collaboration efforts. Good morning.
Fantastic. So we are here to talk about employee advocacy. So over the past day, we've talked about customer experience, customer advocacy. So what does employee advocacy actually have to do with all of this? Because employees are inside of your company. So ladies, why is this important?
Yeah, so I'll start. At Intel, really the Intel ambassadors, actually all of our Intel employees are the heart and soul of our company. So they really are the voices behind our brand story. They tell the world what we stand for and why we care, or why they should care. And honestly, it impacts the bottom line. It really provides a competitive advantage. So if you harness the power and the passion of your employees, it really is going to impact the bottom line.
And empowered employees, as you know, are more engaged. They're more likely to feel like they can create art at work, that they can work together. So it's a win-win for the customer and the employees and the company.
I love that. Create art at work. So Sabrina, you manage the advocacy program at Intel. Can you tell us a little bit about how it came about and what the program's charter is?
Yeah, so the charter is to really engage emotionally and personally with everyone around the world about what the heart and soul of Intel really means. It's really answering the question, not what we make, but why we make it. So that's a little bit different than sort of traditionally how we've messaged in the past. And our employees are really uniquely positioned to do that in a way that's so beautifully authentic. So the way I think about it is if you give employees a platform to authentically talk about and represent your brand, they're going to do that in a beautiful and unexpected way that's really going to connect with your customers. And for us, that's really what it's about.
Absolutely. So let's zoom out for a bit. So advocacy, in my mind, is like the ultimate form of engagement, right? It's when the employee puts their name on the line to back up the company's mission, right? To spread the company's message. And so engagement, right, is what gets people there. No one argues that an engaged employee is your secret weapon. It's actually, there are numerous studies that have been done where engaged companies with engaged employees actually return like 5 times more shareholder value than those without engaged employees. So it's good for business. No one's arguing that. However, the reality is that 71% of all employees in America are either disengaged or highly disengaged. This is according to a Gallup study from last year. So why? There's that huge gap. Phoebe, what do you think is driving this?
I mean, I don't have the exact answers, but just based on what I've read, what I've observed, and the environments that I've worked in, I think it comes down to 2 core things. One of them is trust. I think the trust of big corporations, not only by consumers, but also by the employees within those companies, is dropping, right? They don't feel like they're getting the true message. Leadership feels like they're giving the true message, it's not being received that way. I think another factor is tools and processes. People feel like they don't have the right processes and tools to do their jobs the best to win for the customers. So they get frustrated, they get disengaged. People that used to try really hard are now checking out, doing the bare minimum to get by. We can't have that anymore. That's money on the table. It's the right thing to do because we should treat our employees well, but it's the right thing to do for the customer.
So Phoebe, you are a community management junkie, just like I am, and you run your company's enterprise social network for your employees. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, we're using a platform called Chatter. You may have heard of it. It's from Salesforce. And again, it's not about the tools, it's about the people and the community management framework that you build. So I would say I run the network, but the network really is starting to run itself. It's amazing to see how much progress we've made with our 4,000 users, which will be scaling up to 16,000 over the next year or so. But self-policing now. They're able to kind of work together, ask questions. I think things like asking questions and answering questions, maybe in this crowd, we take it for granted. Well, if I have a question, of course I'm going to ask it. At some companies, including mine, and in some pockets of the organization, it's not always looked upon as positive to ask a question because some people think that that's you not knowing your job. So now it's opening up that culture. So asking is a smart thing to do. You're saving time, and that time goes, again, back to the customer. You'll hear me say customer about 6,000 times today.
So that's a pretty big culture shift, right? Going from, oh, I know all the answers and hoarding information, like this is mine, these are my contacts.
No more secret squirrels. So.
Exactly. That's a big shift, right? So what is your advice to companies who are grappling with this culture shift?
I think it's going to be a multi-step and multi-year effort. I think you need people, not just like me who are the community managers. I rely on a team of what I call my chatter champs. And they're not just people who tell people how to upload a profile picture. I think that's very tactical. These are folks that are in the field, and those to me are the people that are the most important in my organization. I don't exist without the field, so to have these champs kind of amplify the good work we're doing, amplify positive behaviors, spread the word out to other people in the field who may be skeptical, maybe their interaction with social media is negative because of what they read and hear. So taking social out of the mix and getting them to understand that if we use certain tools and certain processes, it's about getting things done for the customer. It's not about being social or being digital. So those champs are really important to our strategy. It's 25 of them. They do the work of like 2,500. So it's fantastic.
So it takes a village. So Sabrina, how did you get everyone sort of behind? How did you rally executives, managers, and employees themselves for your program?
Yeah, so I was fortunate to have two really exceptional executive sponsors, executive leaders that really saw the potential of what employee advocacy could do for our company. And what they gave me permission to do, which is really amazing, is that they gave me an opportunity and great latitude to experiment, to listen, to learn, and to iterate, which gave me an opportunity to have little wins, little successes, and allowed me to build proof points on how employee advocacy can really make a difference for the company. So really it was about great executive leadership and sponsorship. And secondly, on how to get the employees behind it. Seriously, the employees are so excited to advocate for your company. We just never have given them permission or a platform to do it. So it's really about inspiring and bringing together sort of that collective energy, that collective passion that employees already have. And the way I sort of think and talk about ambassadors at Intel is that I give them guardrails. I actually don't tell them what to say. I encourage them and have them authentically express our brand story in the way that feels most natural for them. So yeah, there's guardrails, right? Okay, so you might, want to steer clear of this because that maybe will put us at, risk if we talk about it this way. Guardrails, but really it's about freedom of expression and empowering and inspiring the employees to do just that, tell your story.
Yeah, whenever I advise companies around employee engagement, I say, don't think of it as things that people cannot do. Think of it in terms of what you can do. You're setting people free. So what's in it for employees to be your advocates?
Yeah, so the recognition model that I use, and I'd love to hear too what yours is too, the recognition model that I use is really about providing employees opportunity and visibility to do the things that they're already passionate about. And we use both intrinsic and extrinsic motivators at our company, so different things are going to inspire and motivate each one of you in the audience as they do each one of your employees, right? So what I like to do is provide access to people, opportunities like events and technology that somebody wouldn't normally have access to. And that's going to be different for everybody. So I'll use a specific example. Intel has 106,000 employees. Half of our workforce is in the factory. So what inspires our advocates, our ambassadors on the factory floor is very different than what inspires a technical engineer. So a factory employee, if I gave them an all access pass to CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. I mean, for most of us in the audience, right, we probably go to that kind of stuff all the time. But really, they are thrilled to have the opportunity to be in front of a stage that they wouldn't normally have access to. For an engineer, it might be different. So it might be me arranging a lunch with our executives and giving them an opportunity to talk about where they think the company should go or their ideas on how to take us forward. So different motivators for different people.
Absolutely. So ladies, what does success look like for you?
Definitely, and I've said this many times before, success is when, number one, I'm out of the picture, right? That my job as a community manager is really not even visible anymore. The community is thriving. That's more high level, that's more big picture, the dream. I think granularly, we have to set certain KPIs, key performance indicators that we need to meet. We don't have a social network just because we want a social network, because we want to be on trend. We have it so that people will be able to save time, use that time smartly to do the things they need to do to, again, win for the customer. So I've got to be able to show that performance is improving in certain areas, and we're saving time, we're saving money, and all of that will be set for different groups at different levels. And that's really important to make sure that you can justify this kind of advocacy to the business.
I think that we have, absolutely we have tangible success measures, right? The same way that we would measure reach and amplification and, more importantly, engagement. But what I really look at when I'm looking at the success of my program is I go talk to my ambassadors. And I recently just asked them, I said, hey, we've been up and running for a year and a half. What has this experience been like to you? And honestly, they couldn't have said it better. I remember one employee saying, Sabrina, out of the 15 years that I've been at Intel, this is the most connected I've ever felt to our business. That alone, right, guys? I mean,
amazing.
You can have data as much as you could possibly imagine. That alone was a critical success measure for me.
So we actually had a conversation yesterday here about measurement, right? And everyone gets stuck on these things that we can measure, but just because you can measure it doesn't mean you should. So the reason I bring this up is because the qualitative stories are absolutely critical to rounding out any quantitative lifts that you can see. So thank you for bringing that up. So we actually have 1 minute, so we can take a question, or you guys can share some closing thoughts. We have a question right there. I'll restate the question for the audience. The question was, since your advocacy is internal, how do you link it explicitly to consumers? Is that correct?
I'll give a really short example, and I'll give you time. So we recently did these pop-up experiences at Intel where we were reintroducing ourselves to the world all around, Beijing and London. And normally what we do is we hire demo experts to really introduce the products. And I said, wait a minute, guys, I have Intel employees at every single one of these sites. Wouldn't it be great if we had our Intel employees introduce the products? And it changed the dynamic of the experience. So we put our employees in direct connection with our customer, and it absolutely flipped it on its head in such a beautiful way. So it's because employees can tell the why story.
We're at an earlier stage, so, go ahead. We're at an earlier stage, so we really just are building the capabilities now. We haven't driven this advocacy out to the consumers yet.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I wanted to thank our wonderful panelists, Sabrina Stoffergen and Phoebe Venkat. And I wanted to thank all of you, and hopefully you can take some of the lessons back to your workplaces and engage the hearts and minds of your employees.
And thank you for listening.
Bye. See you.